Okay, now let's consider the special phasors tree. Special phasor number 3. Okay, suppose we have chosen a path like this. This is the path we have chosen. This is the length element dl, the direction of the length element, and suppose here we have 3 current carrying conductor. Say this is I1, they say this is I2, and say this is I3. Okay, so we have chosen 3 conductors are there, and this 3 conductor is surrounded by this closed path. Okay, and first conductor, say this is conductor 1, conductor 2, conductor 3. It's first conductor is carrying a current into the plane of paper, second conductor is also carrying a current into the plane of paper, and third conductor is carrying a current outside of the plane of paper. The current in the first conductor is say I1, current in the second conductor is I2, and current in the third conductor is I3. Okay, so for this scenario, if we apply the Ampere circuital law, then its value will be B dot dl is equal to mu naught into I inclusive. Okay, so now you see what is the value of I inclusive. You see, I1 is into the plane of paper. Say we take the direction as positive direction, so plus I1. Okay, and I2 is again into the plane of paper, so it's also plus, say plus I2. Okay, but I3 is now outside of the plane of paper, and we have to take its direction as negative, because into the plane of paper we have taken it as positive, so it is minus I3. Therefore, the value, if we apply the Ampere circuital law, it will give us I1 plus I2 minus I3. Okay, so this is also valid for any number of current element. Suppose if there are n number of current element, we can also always do like that, mu naught into I1 plus I2 minus I3. Here minus I3 is there because the direction of the current is outside of the plane of paper, and I1 and I2 is into the plane of paper. So any number of conductor, it doesn't matter, as long as your chosen path encloses the conductor I1, I2 and I3, then you can apply Ampere circuital law easily. Okay, and one of the fundamental fact which is true for Ampere circuital law, that this current should be, I current should be steady current. Steady current. Okay, steady current means the value of current does not changes with time. It should be steady. If it is 1 ampere for 1 minute, then it should be 1 ampere for 1 hour, many hours also. So it should be steady current. But if say current is varies like that, I is equal to I naught sine of omega t. Okay, this is known as the alternating current. Alternating current I am going to also teach you after this part of magnetism is over. In case of alternating current, the Ampere circuital law is not valid. Okay, then we have to add some term which is known as the displacement current. Okay, so for the time being, which we are going to consider a current which is a steady current. That means it does not vary with respect to time. For such type of current, we can use Ampere circuital law. If the current is changes with time, just like a sinusoidal current or alternating current, then for such cases Ampere circuital law is not valid. Okay, so these are the importance properties of Ampere circuital law. So let me repeat it again. The first property which we find is that if the chosen path does not completely surround the current carrying conductor, then Ampere circuital law will give you B dot dl is equal to 0, since I inclusive is 0 in this case. That we have already proved. Okay, now next property of Ampere circuital law is that the chosen path does not the chosen path can be any shape. It doesn't matter whether the shape is circular, rectangular, doesn't matter. For any shape of path which you have chosen, Ampere circuital law is always valid. Okay, so you can choose any path up to your taste, and you can always apply the Ampere circuit law. So this is property number 2, and the property number 3 is that Ampere circuit law is valid for n numbers of current carrying conductor or current carrying element. Here I1, I2 and I3, all current carrying elements are surrounded by this closed loop or closed path, and therefore we can easily apply Ampere circuit law, and for this case its value is B dot dl is equal to mu naught I1 plus I2 minus I3. Okay, and number 4 point is that Ampere circuit law is always valid for steady current. If we have time varying current, for example the alternating current, then Ampere circuit law is not valid. In that case we have to add some another term which is known as the displacement current, which we are going to discuss when we consider the alternating current chapter. Okay, so far this is the everything you need to know at this level about Ampere circuit. Okay, so next part, what we are going to do, we are going to have some example discussing Ampere circuit law, and then you can see how it's very easy, or how it's so easy to find out the magnetic field for a regular shape current using Ampere circuit law. Okay, thank you. Good morning, student. In this class we are going to discuss about application of Ampere's law. Okay, the Ampere's law, basically we use the Ampere's law in order to calculate the magnitude of magnetic field. Okay, in order to apply the Ampere's law, certain advanced knowledge is necessary. For example, we have to know the direction of the magnetic field, direction of B. Okay, if we know the direction of the magnetic field, what we can do, we can choose the Ampere's loop along that direction, so that our calculation becomes easy. Ampere's loop is basically if I say about Ampere's loop is basically the closed loop where we used to do line integral of B dot dl. Okay, so this is the Ampere's loop. This loop should be closed one, so that we can do this line integration B dot dl, and if we choose this loop along the direction of the magnetic field, then certain things become really easy. Okay, first I am going to explain the magnetic field due to a infinite current carrying conductor. These things already I have done using Biot-Savart law, but as you can see, the calculation was a little bit lengthy. But when we use Ampere circuit law, it's become really simple. I mean, we can just determine its value within a few steps. Okay, so let's do this calculation of magnetic field due to infinite current carrying conductor. Suppose this is a conductor and it's carrying a current I. Okay, and we want to determine the magnetic field at the point P, which is at a distance r from the wire. Okay, now this distance r is very less than the length of the conductor. That's why this is known as the infinite current carrying conductor. These things I have explained in the previous class. Just I'm just repeating it so that your memory flashes up. So basically here we are going to determine the magnetic field at the point P, the magnitude of the magnetic field. Okay, so as you know, if the current I is along this direction, the magnetic lines of force will be in a circular direction surrounding the current carrying conductor. So direction of the magnetic field will be like this, and we are going to select the Ampere's loop along the direction of the magnetic field line. Okay, so let's first choose Ampere's loop, and I have put it in a dot symbol so that it's become easy for you to understand, as this loop is surrounding the current I. That means the wire I is passing through its center and perpendicular to its plane. Okay, so this is the Ampere's loop which we have selected. Okay, so if this point is P at a distance r, so any point on the loop will be at a distance r from the center of the loop. All these points will be at a distance r from the center of the loop. Okay, so if the distance is same, I mean by symmetry, we know that the magnetic field will be also equal, because magnetic field anyway depends on the distance from the center or from the point where we want to determine it. Okay, so any point on the loop, the magnetic field has the equal magnitude, but its direction will be different. But the direction how we can determine, just we have to draw a tangent at each point of the loop. So that will determine our direction of the magnetic field, which will be different at different point. Okay, so let's proceed. In order to apply the Ampere's circuital law, what we need to do, first we have to consider an length element dl with the point P at the center. Suppose this is the length element which we have chosen with the point P at its center. So suppose this is the length element and its direction is always in the anti-clockwise direction, as I have already mentioned. Okay, and now we know that the magnetic direction of the magnetic field is also towards the tangent direction. So the B and DL will be in the same direction. Okay, for this point P, the B and DL will be in the same direction, and also for any other point P, if we choose the length element with as a center, then the direction of B and DL will always same, and their angle between B and DL will be equal to 0 degree. Okay, so with this, let's proceed to apply the Ampere's circuital law. Okay, so according to Ampere's circuital law, closed integration B dot dl is equal to mu naught into I inclusive. Okay, so now we know that B dot dl, as the angle is 0 degree, therefore this value will be equal to BL cos 0 degree is equal to mu naught I inclusive. I inclusive means whatever the current this closed loop contains. Okay, so this value will be equal to BDL is equal to mu naught I inclusive. Okay, now since the magnitude of magnetic field at each point of the current loop is same, therefore what we can do, we can take this quantity outside of the integral. Therefore this value will be equal to BDL is equal to mu naught I inclusive. Here is the value of small I, because whole small I is passing through this Ampere's loop. That means Ampere loop is surrounding the current carrying conductor. So whatever current passes through the conductor, same amount of current will pass through the Ampere's loop. Therefore I inclusive will be equal to small I. Okay, so now B line integration dl is equal to mu naught into I. Okay, now you see the closed line integration dl means we have to add up all those small element dl. Okay, and if we add up everything here, what we will get? Nothing but the circumference of the Ampere's loop. You see, Ampere's loop has the radius small r, therefore the circumference of the loop will be equal to twice pi r. So line integration dl is nothing but twice pi r. So let's put this value, b into twice pi r is equal to mu naught into I. Okay, so b will be equal to mu naught into I divided by twice pi into r. So at the point P, the value of the magnetic field will be mu naught into I twice pi r, and at any point on this Ampere's loop, the value of the magnetic field will be same, and its value is mu naught I divided by twice pi r. So you see, using Ampere's circuital law, how easily we can determine the magnetic field. This calculation, while using Biot-Savart law, it took almost 2 pages to derive it. But using Ampere's circuital law with some symmetry argument, we can easily determine the value of the magnetic field. So these are very high, these are much advantage of the Ampere's circuital law. Okay, so first I have considered this problem. Next I am going to consider the magnetic field due to a uniformly charged current carrying magnetic field due to a uniform current carrying conductor, uniform density current carrying conductor. I am going to explain what is the meaning of uniform current carrying conductor. Okay, next problem is magnetic field B due to uniformly current carrying conductor, current carrying conductor. So this is our problem number 2. You see, while deriving the magnetic field due to a current carrying conductor, we did not consider any radius of the conductor. But in real life, there is a certain radius of the conductor. Suppose, say this is a conductor and it has a area, it has a radius equal to small a. The radius of the conductor is small a. Okay. Suppose I current is uniformly distributed throughout the conductor. That means I current is at the current density at each point on the conductor is equal to same. Okay, so such type of conductor is known as the uniformly current carrying conductor. For example, the radius of the conductor is a, therefore its cross sectional area is equal to pi a square. So pi a square carries a current I. Okay, let's say it's capital I. Therefore, per unit area, the current will be I divided by pi a square. So if we consider the conductor at each point, the current density will be same and its value is equal to I divided by pi a square. Current density means current per unit area. So at each point, current per unit area is same. For example, suppose you consider an area, this much area here, small area here, larger area here. At each area of the conductor, the current density is uniform. Okay, so this is known as the uniformly current carrying conductor, and we are going to calculate the magnetic field for this conductor. Okay, so you see, since we are taking a finite thickness of the conductor, so there will be magnetic field any inside point of the conductor as well as outside point of the conductor. So in this part, we are going to calculate the value of the magnetic field inside the conductor as well as outside the conductor. Okay, so this is our problem. So let's have an extended view of the current carrying conductor, and suppose its radius is a. Okay, so this is an infinite conductor, as I have already explained. Now suppose we want to calculate, this is the axis of the conductor, right? This is the axis of the conductor. Suppose we want to calculate the magnetic field at the point P and at the point Q. The point P, from the center of the conductor, let's say its distance is R1, and the point Q, from the center of the conductor, let's say its distance is R2. Okay, these are center of the conductor. See. Okay, now in order to find the value of the magnetic field at the point P and Q, we have to use the Ampere-Circuital law, and the first step of Ampere-Circuital law is to choose the Ampere's loop. Okay, as I have told you, due to a current carrying conductor, the magnetic lines of force always in circle which ends around the conducting wire. Therefore, at the point P also, we will choose a Ampere's loop, which is a circle of radius R1. Then its orientation will be similar to the orientation of the magnetic field. Therefore, the first step, what we will do, we will choose the Ampere's loop of radius R1 inside the conductor. So this is an Ampere's loop of radius R1, and the point P is on the Ampere's loop. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to apply Ampere's law for this for this loop. Okay, so if we ampere now, let's say for point inside the conductor, that means R1 is less than A, because A is the radius, R1 is inside the conductor, therefore R1 will be less than A. Okay, so the Ampere-Circuital law gives B dot dl is equal to mu naught into I into C. Okay, so as like in the previous cases, B and dl will be always parallel to each other, because the magnetic field and the dl direction always in the same direction for this kind of Ampere's loop orientation. Okay. Okay, so what we will write, BDL cos 0 is equal to 1, so I am not going to write its value, I inclusive. Okay, so the value of B at each point of the Ampere's loop will be same as in the previous class due to the symmetry of the problem. Therefore, we can take B outside of the integration sign. So it will be C dl is equal to mu naught I inclusive. Okay, now you see this circular loop has a radius of r1. So line integral dl, that means total circumference of this circle. So if its radius is r1, then its total circumference will be twice pi into r1 is equal to mu naught into I inclusive. Therefore B is equal to mu naught I inclusive divided by twice pi r1. Okay, now what is left? We have to determine the value of I inclusive. Okay, we need to know what is the value of I inclusive. Okay, so for that, what we need to know, what is the area of this loop. You see, its radius is r1, therefore the cross section area of this loop is pi r1 square. Okay, and we also know that the loop is a uniform current carrying conductor. This conductor is a uniform current carrying conductor. Therefore, per unit area, the current is I divided by pi a square. So what we know, 1 unit area will carry a current how much? I divided by pi into a square. Now what is the area of this loop? Pi r1 square. So how much current it will carry? What we have to do, just multiply this factor with this factor, because 1 unit area carries current I divided by pi a square. Therefore pi r square, this is the value of the area. How much current it will contain? I divided by pi a square into pi r1 square. So pi cancel, what we will get? I r1 square divided by a square. This is the value of the I inclusive. That means this Ampere's loop will carry this much amount of current. Okay, so we have to put this value here. So it's simple. Okay, let me again remind you that this is a uniform current density current carrying wire. Therefore per unit area it carries a current I divided by pi a square. Now this Ampere's loop has a radius of area of pi r1 square. Therefore this Ampere's loop will carry a current I divided by pi a square into pi r square, and its value is I r1 square over a square. So we have to put this value here in order to find out the value of the magnetic field inside any point P on the wire. If we determine the point P here, so at any point of the wire, any point on this Ampere's loop, the value of the magnetic field will be that only, because it is a symmetry due to the symmetry arrangement. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to put this value here. Okay, so B inside will be equal to mu naught, this value is I r1 square divided by 2 pi r1 into a square. Okay, so r1 get cancelled, it will be equal to mu naught I r1 divided by 2 pi a1 square. Okay, so this is the value of magnetic field at the point r1, which is inside the conductor. Okay, so this is a very important derivation, and you have to remember this value, mu naught I r1 over twice pi into a square. This is any inside point of the current carrying conductor. Okay, so next what we are going to determine, we are going to determine at any point which is external to the current carrying wire. This is a point Q. Q point is at a distance say r2. Okay, so this wire has radius a. Okay, this problem I have already done, because you see, for a current carrying wire carrying a current I at any point r, we have determined the value of magnetic field. This point Q is external to the current carrying wire, so this condition is exactly similar to the previous condition, the condition which the problem which I have discussed for the very first time while using Ampere's law. Okay, so the magnetic field at the point Q due to the current I in the wire will be equal to B outside point is equal to how much? mu naught into I divided by twice by R. That we have already determined, and here the value of R is equal to R2. Okay, so B outside point, we have found the value of magnetic field is equal to mu naught into I divided by twice by R, and B inside, what is the value? We have found this as mu naught into I R2 R1 divided by twice by A square, where R1 is less than A. That means R1 is inside the wire. Here R2 is greater than A. That means R2 point is outside the wire, because its value is greater than the radius of the wire, so it is a outside point. Okay, so until here everything is fine. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to determine the magnetic field exactly on the surface of the wire. Okay, surface of the wire means from the center the distance is equal to A, because radius of the wire is nothing but A. So any point on the surface of the wire will be at a distance A from the center of the wire or from the axis of the wire. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to follow two paths. First, we are going to approach the wire from inside, and next we are going to approach the wire from outside. Okay, and if at the surface both these value are equal, then we are sure that our these two expression is correct. If it is not similar, then there is some mistake. You have to know it, because from inside, if we approach the surface, we should get the same value while approaching the surface from the outside. Okay, if these two values are similar, then we know that our calculation is right, otherwise we have to do it again. Okay, so now first let's approach from inside. We know from inside the magnetic field is how much? Mu naught I R1 divided by twice by A square. Okay, so if on the surface the value of R1 will be equal to how much? The radius of the wire. Radius of the wire is A, therefore R1 will be equal to A. So we have to put this value here. Okay, so let's see how much we got. Mu naught I A divided by twice by A square. So this value is equal to mu naught I divided by twice by A. Okay, so this is while we approach from the inside of the wire. Okay, now let's approach from outside of the wire. Be outside. The value of magnetic field at outside is twice pi into R2. Okay, when we approach from outside and when it reaches the surface of the wire, then the distance from center will be equal to again A, because the radius of the wire is A. Okay, so in this case R2 will be equal to A. Okay, so what we will get? Mu naught into I divided by twice pi A. Okay, now you see, if we approach from the center inside, at the surface the value is mu naught I divided by twice pi A, and when we approach from outside the value is mu naught into I divided by twice pi A. These two quantities are similar, therefore we can say that this expression is correct. Okay, so this is a kind of a reality check. If you approach from center inside of the wire and you approach from outside of the wire, these two values should be similar, and we have obtained the similar value, therefore these two derivations are correct. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to plot the magnetic field both inside and outside of the wire. So in the y-axis, let's put the magnetic field, and in the x-axis, let's put the distance from the axis or center of the wire. Okay, let's say this is R and this is magnetic field. Okay, now you see in the inside of the wire, as the distance B is proportional to R1. That means if we increase the distance from the center of the wire or axis of the wire, the magnetic field will increase linearly. So here the magnetic field will be like this. This is a linear increase. When R increases, B also increases. So at the surface it will reach the maximum point, and that value is mu naught into I divided by twice pi into A. So this value is mu naught into I divided by twice pi into A at this value. Okay, now you see in the outside point, B is inversely proportional to the distance. R2 here is nothing but the distance from the axis. Okay, so if value of R2 increases, then the magnetic field will increase. When R2 become infinity, the magnetic field will become almost equal to 0. Okay, so from this point the magnetic field will start decreasing. At R become infinity, then it will become 0. Okay, so you see at the center, at the surface of the wire, when R is equal to A, the value of magnetic field is maximum mu naught into I divided by twice pi A. As we move from the center of the wire, the magnetic value of the magnetic field will decrease. Similarly, as you approach towards the axis of the wire along this direction, the magnetic field will also decrease. But this decreases this decreases much sharper than this decrease, because as r tends to infinity, it will tends to 0. And here, from if we look at from say if we approach from center of the axis towards the surface, there is a linear increase, so there will be also a linear decrease if we move towards the opposite direction. Okay, so this is the plot of the magnetic field as a function of r for such uniform current carrying wire. So this is a very, very important derivation, and you have to I hope you understand how we obtain the variation of magnetic field as a function of distance, both for inside point and both for outside. Okay.